So Elio is the latest animated film from Pixar, an original film from Pixar. And this film, I think a lot of people would probably describe it as kind of like The Last Starfighter. And I would, in terms of like the general story, but I would preface it by saying, yeah, it's like The Last Starfighter, but if it were more mature and more heartfelt, but also willing to be more horrific, if that makes sense. So, much like The Last Starfighter, it's about, someone who's young and idealistic, who wants to believe that there's more for them out there rather than just the simplistic life that they have on Earth, and that they will be whisked away to another galaxy to interact with different types of aliens and make all their sci-fi dreams come true. Elio's very much the same way, but it's far more intelligent and more engaging with how it frames its character, and I think that's just because the central character of Elio, played by Jonas, let's see if I can pronounce his name, Jonas Kribliab. I'm probably screwing that up, but Elio he's an enduring character. You kind of like him just because he's endured, the loss of his parents. But he has a fascination with NASA and with science, and the belief that that the Voyager spacecraft is going to find something out there, that there must be some alien life out there because we've been searching for so long. Surely some aliens will come by sooner or later. So Elio basically, while being raised by his busy aunt Olga, voiced by Zoe Saldana, he spends his entire time just awaiting alien arrival. He tracks down where's the best spot to look for them. Tries to track signals through ham radios. Basically, tries to find any way to make contact with alien life so that he can feel. Basically, that he can start his life over, more or less. That he can find somebody else he can connect with for being so much of an outsider. And thankfully, one day, there is an alien signal that is picked up, and Elio gets a chance to make first contact. And he is able to contact the aliens, and when they finally do arrive, they manage to, abduct him and bring them to their world. And he ends up in this collective of all these other aliens in what's called the Communiverse. And it's basically a collective of basically alien scientists that want to understand more about the world and experiments and the meaning of life, and just explore all this stuff while, just having fun. Which is just great. I love the fact that when Elio's abducted, he doesn't have this moment of terror and fear. There's excitement. There's just this, yes, this is finally happening, and all his dreams are coming true. He gets to hang out with all these fun different creatures, and they showcase this technology of, altering gravity and making different stuff with matter and cloning and, offering up the meaning of life if Elio wants to look it up. He doesn't because there's so much other cool stuff to do. Thankfully, though, there is conflict in the film. He does have to kind of prove himself that he can be a member of this council, and the best way that he can do that is by standing up to this warlord bully called Lord Grygon, voiced by Brad Garrett. And I love the fact that, Brad Garrett is kind of doing what he always does best here, which is just, having a growly, villain voice, and he's perfect here. He's this very kind of worm creature who has a mech suit in this whole other, with this whole race that's just, it's worms and mech suits. And Elio is not, of course, Elio is not going to be able to defeat this guy with, muscle and firepower, not just because he doesn't have it, but because, it seems, Grygon seems a little bit too intimidating. Thankfully, though, Elio can find a way to connect with the warlord's son of Glorden, voiced by Remy Edgerly, and the two of them, Elio and Glorden have this instant connection. They're both outsiders. They both feel like they're devalued by their parents, so they immediately connect, and they connect so quickly that they also get to have a lot of time just having fun with each other and connecting on a level where they can just drink all night and throw up and have fun, basically have fun in this alien environment, which I love. I love the fact that, this film approaches the idea that if there is alien life out there, it's not just going to be, aliens that want to blow us up, or just, extraterrestrials who are just going to innocently eat our candy and then leave. Here are some actual, intelligent creatures who have greater ideas and bigger perceptions about, our universe and, how we connect with one another, which, of course, it's the fairly predictable thesis of this film is just that, yes, Elio's going to find a way to connect with his aunt because, they don't see eye to eye, because Elio's an outsider and Olga's overworked and she can't find a way to parent. So, of course, they are going to form that connection. But the fact that they are able to form that bond over a very clever sequence where they have to try to find their way off Earth in a spaceship while avoiding a debris field while relying on grid coordinates and radio signals, it's just brilliant. Because this film does wear on its sleeve that, yes, it has a love of science. It's very much in love with the science of kind of like with space travel and radio signals and, but I think the fact that, there is that love there, it makes it that much more intelligent and exciting on that level, because then you care about these characters. If they're smart enough to figure out, how to make it off Earth and how starships might work, then you're kind of like, oh, okay, these people kind of seem like they know what they're doing, and I want them to kind of, not only succeed, but, become better people as the film goes along. And that it makes you root for them, and it makes the addition of, like, there are some audio inclusion of, like Carl Sagan talks. And I think the fact that, there is that love of science, it makes, like, Carl Sagan's words here not just feel decorative. It feels like there actually is a purpose for them in this film that connect better with the characters and the central theme. So, not a real surprise here. Pixar, I think, always does best when they're trying to create entirely new worlds here. Like, I love the world that they made with Elemental, and I do love the world that they made with the Communiverse, which is just, dazzling color and just, all these different, like, I love, like, the little council chamber with all these little clamshells. I love the just the vibrancy, and even like the Lord Grygon's, like, ship with, like, its coldness and its lava pits and stuff like that, and, like, all these, like, webs that they have for these worm-like creatures, all these great little details. And it's fun to explore this world and just fun to hang out in it with all these characters. I think it's just, that's the sign of, like, a great animated world, is if you don't really care that the characters are just hanging out. That being said, I do love how zippy the film is, that it does make room to have that fun. It doesn't waste a lot of time with exposition. It does, like, go very, very fast through getting Elio into this, like, alien environment. Like, it doesn't happen immediately, but it is doled out pretty quickly here. It kind of has the same pacing of, like, Disney's Meet the Robinsons, where they just, take this character, pluck him out, just like, boom, here we are. Okay, here's what we do. Bam, 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 bam. And just get to the fun stuff as quickly as possible. And I think having that, like I said, having that quickly allows for more fun. And it was great to just, hang out with these characters and watch them endure. And also, just watching characters who have, like, a better drive for connection and wanting to learn more. Like, I love the fact that when Elio, kind of almost, like, reluctantly accepts this job of trying to, like, negotiate peace with Lord Grygon, he kind of, like, studies up on it. He's like, oh, I'm a bit over my head. What am I going to do? Well, I accepted this job, so I might as well hit the books. I'll try to, like, look up, how to approach conflict, what's the best route to approach it from. So I love the fact that Elio is not only like plucky and willing to try stuff, but also just smart enough to, look stuff up and try to find that connection with other people. So yeah, this is very much a much more intelligent Pixar film in terms of its ambition and its characters and its connection, while also just looking dazzling. Like, it's fun to just hang out in this very colorful world here. So yeah, for a Pixar original film, this is a pretty damn good film with a lot of heart and a lot of brains to it that just makes you care about these characters. And just, like I said, it's a much more mature version of The Last Starfighter, but also, I had to come back to this point here. There are some horror elements to this film because the one thing that I say relates closest to The Last Starfighter is they rely on a clone of Elio to be placed on Earth so that Elio doesn't have to worry about being missing. And of course, if you've watched The Last Starfighter, the creepiest part of that film, at least for me, was how they formed the clone. Because, like, the clone is kind of, like, malformed at some points, and it looks, like, creepy the way it's, like, not quite a complete human being here. And I have to imagine, like, the Pixar people who worked on this film kind of looked at that aspect and said, oh, we can make this way creepier. Like, there are some creepy elements of, like, how Elio's clone, how his hair moves, how he, like, cuts off body parts, how he melts in one scene where it's got, like, deep red lighting, and it looks straight out of a horror film. So they just kind of like looked at The Last Starfighter and said, oh, we can make this way more horrific and also make it just fun. So I love the fact that they're willing to experiment with sci-fi and horror. Like, there's a few nods to, like, Alien in there as well. So it's very much a film that's just, it has fun with its sci-fi setting while giving it brains and heart. So yeah, for being one of Pixar's few originals in the past few years, this was a lot of fun. It was beautiful, it was heartfelt, and it was very smart characters that are worth hanging out with. I love when Pixar makes movies like these, and I wish that they would make more of them. So I hope that Elio does well, because I love when Pixar makes movies like this.